honourable gentleman knows that I have the same contempt for his socialist policies as the people of East Europe who have experienced it have it for theirs. I think I must have hit the right nail on the head when I pointed out that the logic of those policies are they'd rather have the poor poorer. Once they start to talk about the gap, they'd rather the gap was that. Down here. That. Not that. But that. So long as the gap is smaller, so long as the gap is smaller, they'd rather have the poor poorer. You do not create wealth and opportunity that way. You do not create a property-owning democracy that way.
Hey, so how's it, everyone? Welcome back to Freedom Fanatics. I'm Alex. I'll be your host today, and as always, joined with my esteemed colleagues Sholin and Tiejo, coming to you live from all corners of Mzansi today, guys. Today we're going to kick off with a story from the Citizen, and this comes from the newly elected leader of the South African Communist Party. We're giving them a lot of airtime of late. Don't worry, guys. We're not. It's like, you know, when people have tweets, they say tweets are not retweets are not endorsements and stuff. That's what we should give a little disclaimer. But I think in the discussion that'll become very apparent. And in the Citizen article, Solly Mapela says we live in a capitalist country and business controls government. Now, he was responding to the jobs crisis in South Africa, and he said it needs to be addressed. So I'm just going to find a little bit where he speaks about how we should go about fixing the jobs crisis in South Africa. Unemployment, obviously, we know is a crisis in South Africa. But let me find the thing. So basically, he said here, we live in a capitalist country. Businesses cannot dominate over public interest. Now we have a real problem where business controls government. The primary task of government is to look after the public, to serve the public, not to serve business. Now, let me see where I think he said it before that. Here we go. This is my favorite part. They must impose prescribed assets, we've heard this before, and tax the profits of the rich in order to look after society. We must not allow the debt of business exploitation using public funds. We must bring on board the role of the public economy. Tiejo, we should be tax the profits of the rich. What are your thoughts about this?
I think it's nonsensical. Well, let me first begin by speaking about the Margaret Thatcher video. I think there was something quite interesting that she was really in control of that parliament. She reminded me of Julius Malema the day he was on the podium and said that he was in charge, you know. But moving forward, I think that it's not surprising that this man says that South Africa has become a capitalist country. I think capitalism is something that we are as human beings at a natural level, right? We are born into this world. Say that we were born into this world without all these buildings and everything. You'd have natural resources and you'd have to find the best way to utilize those natural resources so as to get your final product at the end of it. So it's really our nature, right? We are capitalist in nature, and if you want for the economy of South Africa to then thrive, then it's important that you keep in that fashion. Capitalism really is nature. Allow things to happen naturally. Allow the market to regulate itself and stuff of that nature. But around the tax issue, taxing the rich more, it doesn't help at all. I mean, people have made this scenario, have spoken about this scenario a lot, that if in a room of 10 people, there is one piece of cake in that room, and suddenly 100 people arrive, and there's still just that one piece of cake. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can share that cake, but obviously the slices are going to be quite thin and everything, right? What is more reasonable to do is to bake more cakes or buy more cakes so there's enough for everyone to get a slice of the cake. So what South Africa needs to do at this very moment and point is that we need to create an environment that allows for people to become wealthy. So we have more wealthy people in the country, and in that fashion, we are dealing with the economy problem. This solution of going and cutting that one cake as opposed to adding more cakes, it won't work at all. It hasn't worked anywhere in the world, as Margaret Thatcher said in the opening video. And those are my general views around the issue.
Sholin, I mean, he goes on to say in his speech, Solly Mapaila, that we are bedeviled by capitalism and greediness, and obviously the excesses of capitalism we cannot deny, but to each their own. But I think there is something to be said of crony capitalism, and the misuse in this instance. Solly wants us to tax more people, but in South Africa we have an issue with the abuse of tax funds and where they go. What if you were sitting in the audience at this lecture of Solly Mapaila, what point of order would you raise to his speech?
Yeah, no, the point of order I would raise to him definitely would be that the hypocrisy in his statements. He speaks of the government and the national government being, controlled by these capitalists and these whatever guys behind the scenes with all the money. But I would ask him then, why is your organization that you're leading still in alliance with the national government, who is the ANC? Because clearly you must then be a beneficiary of whatever capitalism you are so denouncing and saying, what, capitalism bad. But clearly he's a beneficiary of it because he is in cahoots and he's in alliance with the very organization that he says is captured, or whatever the case may be. In many aspects, I would actually say that, it's not necessarily capitalism that has caused many of the issues we have. Despite all of its flaws, it's an imperfect system, but yet it is the best system that we have in the world right now to tackle something like poverty. I would also challenge him by saying that many of the things he's speaking about, like Diego made a brilliant example of this piece of cake that everybody wants to eat from, when we should be creating new pieces, more and more broader pieces of cake for people to be able to consume from. That is one of the things that not only the South African Communist Party, but the ANC and many left-leaning organizations struggle with, is that 90% of their policies or suggestions is redistribution, which is, can we take from this one person and we give it to another person and put some in our own pocket? That is the biggest problem that they have. Ask them, how do we create a job? They cannot answer you. They have no ideas surrounding creation of any sort. The only thing is, let's take what is already there. And that's why I would challenge him, is that what capitalism, the word I don't even like, because a better word is actually free markets. Capitalism was actually termed by Karl Marx, who was a Marxist. You know what I mean? And we need to really take that word back and be like, free markets is something that we champion. Because in a free market, what happens is that each individual has the ability to come up with an idea, to develop a product, to make use of the resources that they have right now, and use it in a free market where they can buy and sell without the state regulating how much you can sell, to who you can sell, and when you can sell. That is the free market that we should be wanting, instead of that very regulatory and, low-key socialist type of government policies that the SSCP are the biggest champions of. And clearly it has not been working, my guy.
No, absolutely. And I think it's such a good point that you raised, Rowan, because I think there is something to be said about the semantics of it, of how things are worded, how things are framed, to paint, capitalism and there's this greed as if like free market enterprise is not something that, as Tiago says, comes naturally to a lot of people. But I think on that note of growing the cake, we're going to be discussing, for a change, a Twitter account. And this account is called Kasi Economy. Now, shout out to them. But Kasi Economy, basically, from what I've seen of theirs, and been following them for a little while, is they promote small businesses. And I think it's such a cool idea. showcasing private businesses, guys who starting from nothing, have an idea. Like for example, you can scroll through their feed. There was this lady who created corn dogs, like for parties, and they were really popular. And now she sells them to ShopRite. There was this guy who lost his job, and then he was scared that his Mini Cooper was going to get repossessed, and so he decided to start selling biscuits at taxi ranks. Showing up at 4 a.m. every morning. Tiago, is this the kind of stuff that is this growing the cake, or am I missing something here?
Yeah, I think this is part of the people growing the cake themselves and not waiting for the government to come and build the cake, right? To come and bake the cake, rather. This is exactly what's happening. And I think it must be mentioned that the work done by this page is very important at many levels, at the level of inspiring people to wake up and do it themselves, but as well at the level of showing people that it is possible to do this, and there's no shame really in for example, waking up, baking scones and going to sell at the streets. At the end of the day, we have to find ways of putting food on our tables, and we must really do whatever is available, whatever opportunities that are available to us at that point in time. We must grab them with two hands and go and make that money so we can provide for our family members. So really a big shout out to this page for promoting township businesses and as well township people who are doing businesses in town, informal businesses and everything of that nature. Let's only hope that it will inspire more people to wake up and do it themselves.
Absolutely. Charlene, I think sort of maybe give you the last word on this story. I think what sticks out to me is if there isn't a market for your products, and we chat about the free markets, no one's going to buy them. So the successful will survive. And it's about understanding. I think that's something that's neglected, is there's a level of understanding that comes with running business. If you understand the market, if you understand what people need, if you understand what people want, people will buy your product. And I think that's exactly what people at a very local level are doing, the kind of businesses that Kasi Economy are showcasing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Alex. And what we are really seeing here, especially with the work that Cash Economy doing, is with highlighting what we would call the informal sector, where entrepreneurs, small businesses operate in communities, in local communities. And that is actually what is, I think, the lifeblood of South Africa's economy, because I think that, having major corporations flying in from international shores, coming here to South Africa, investing, that's great. That's brilliant. We encourage that, of course. But not everybody can be, scooped up into that pool, into that job market. And that's why we should definitely be encouraging situations like this, where we tell people, what do you have? What can you make? What can you do? And do the best with the ability that you can in the community, in the market that you are exposed to, in the environment that you operate. And another important question, I think, that where major role players can actually play, especially whether it's major corporations, whether it's governments, whether it's community leaders or political leaders or whatever, is asking the question, what can we do to make it easier for small and medium enterprises like these to function? Something simple. This is a simple example of what I mean by this, is that in our education system, at least, what you were speaking of, Alex, something like financial literacy can be introduced, explaining to people not only that this is how the economy works in some pie in the sky way, but telling them this is how you manage a book, this is how you do bookkeeping, this is how you manage your revenue, this is how you deal, this is how you even register a business with the officials or whatever the case may be. Those are things that can be introduced in our schools, instead of teaching people about life orientation. I'm like, guys, listen, there's much better things that we could be doing with the times of students, to effectively contribute back to the community. And a brilliant shift away from the mentality of being, we must be employees, whereas we should be encouraging people to be employers. And that is exactly how you get people into a job market, get people gaining an income and people selling a product to consumers. It's literally that simple. And it shouldn't be overcomplicated by whatever politicians or leaders trying to talk to us in the nicest and the most beautifulest of terms, but are unable to create something on the ground for us.
No, absolutely. I think this kind of example shows up the comments made by Makaila, because in a sense, imagine starting a business from nothing. You're selling biscuits at a taxi rank at 4 a.m. You're selling scones. You're selling whatever, guenya, whatever it is, and only to grow your business, and to say, we're going to tax you more on that. There's no incentive for that person to do it. Tioko, you look pained at even just the thought of the example.
Yeah, no, I am even pained at the amount that's taxed from my salary alone. What about businesses? It's a lot. I mean, taxes are quite high in South Africa. And tomorrow, by the way, we have a SAFTU calling for a national shutdown. And amongst the demands that they are making is that they are saying that government should increase the unemployment grant from whatever it is now. I think it's standing at 450, if I'm not wrong, to 1,500 rand, and they should allocate these funds to around 12.4 million people. And you wonder, where is 1,500 for 12.4 million people on a monthly basis going to come from? It's madness. People must find ways. People must be creative, as Sholen has mentioned. Actually, let me not ruin what Sholen has mentioned. Everything that Sholen has already said, people should do exactly that, and we should be on the right path as a country.
No, absolutely. Sholen, I think it's a very good point. I think education is useful. I don't know who taught you SWOT analysis in LO for 12 years that touched you funny, but, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and I can't remember what the T stands for. But anyway, guys, on that, just to end off with, I just wanted to share one little thing, because I think it was doing the rounds last week, but this was MacG's episode with John Steenhuisen, and I don't want to focus on any of the content. I know there was some stuff about roadkill and stuff that was doing the rounds. But what I found really interesting about this is just the comments were unreal. Almost every comment that I saw was, this is such a great conversation. This is such a great interview. This is good dialogue. He's really humanizing politicians. And I think that's something that's so important when we think of freedom of speech in South Africa, and having platforms like ours, I suppose. But really like big platforms, people using enterprise, using private platforms like YouTube, privately funded, to create these arenas to just actually have conversation. And I think these kind of platforms actually go a long way to do a lot of, I think what MacG can do in one episode takes us many, many more podcast episodes to do. So big shout out to him. Just a quick thoughts on that, Tiago, on the whole sort of freedom of speech aspect of that kind of conversation.
So what did John Steenhuisen again call his former wife? Roadkill.
Yeah.
I think part of freedom of speech is allowing him to say that. I mean, he's not insulting anyone or anything of that nature. It's just what he perceives is it's just how he describes their experience, I guess, or something of that nature. But more than anything, I think it's important to say that this was a good podcast. It was a good podcast. But one thing that I like more than anything around the podcast is that it managed to take people from dealing with their perceptions about Steenhuisen to now getting to see the man on a platform and listening to him, right? There's a difference. A lot of times in South Africa, as far as politics are concerned, we normally deal with perceptions according to what the media reports. It's seldom that we get to really listen to our politicians and hear what they stand for, what they have to say, and stuff of that nature. So I think it was good, and it's great that what's his name, MacG has created this platform, is bringing these politicians so we get to know them at to whatever extent at a personal level and stuff of that nature. So 2024 is ahead of us. People will be able to make better choices, I hope, even though they don't really delve into the politics and the policies of the parties and stuff of that nature. Sure.
Last little comment, Sheldon. We've got about 30 seconds. There was MacG created a lot of hype for the elections. I thought that was really cool. Your thoughts on the podcast?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's brilliant seeing especially young people like MacG, pushing not only like politics in in the terrible sense that we all are used to, but also highlighting, what effect it actually has on the daily lives that we experience in the places that we live in. And I also think that MacG is also creating this very brilliant neutral stance where I think he has opened up his platform to everyone from Julius Malema to Musa Mamani to John Steenhuisen, and there will certainly
ANC
be more.
spokesperson as well.
ANC spokesperson as well. And what he allows to do is that he doesn't come with an angle of, I'm going to try and get you out right now because I want to paint you in a certain light. It's like, let you speak and I will let my audience decide. Because immediately when we get people to speak unscripted, unprepared, without the fancy words, like politicians need to do, you actually get to see the real individual and what they actually stand for. And in an automatic conversation, you can immediately see what is the whole time on this man's mind. What does this man actually genuinely believe in? Is the poor really at his heart? Is self-interest really what it's all about? And you eventually get to see that, these are not just individuals with influence and power, but they are also humans at the end of the day. Humans who make mistakes and say crazy things and make jokes about roadkill. You get to see them in a unveiled manner, and that is absolutely brilliant. And that is exactly what we hope to do with Fan as well.
No, exactly. We could only dream. I think my favorite part is where this is just a little hiccup from MacG where he called coalitions a collision, which I think is exactly what they are. But guys, I can see Mbali is knocking on the door, so we're going to let her in and bring in your reactions with Mbali. Let's go ahead.
Yo, hi guys, welcome to your reactions. Hi Sholan, hi Alex, hi Diego.
Hi, Mbali.
And hi to you guys who give us these amazing reactions. So guys, for today, we are looking at a TikTok from, our esteemed TikToker, Mr. Sholan Poisons. And he is talking about most skilled South Africans who are leaving the country. Not for roadkill. They're not leaving the country for roadkill. They're just looking for better opportunities. Alrighty, guys, let's get right into it. Let's watch the video. Okay, we'll watch it today.
More and more South Africans are leaving the country for better opportunities and better living conditions abroad. What do you think can be done to solve our brain drain happening in this country? And let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.
Cool.
More and more South Africans are leaving the country for better
Okay,
opportunities.
Sholan. Sorry. So Diego, as Sholan asked, what can we do to solve this problem?
Well, one of the first things and probably the most important thing that we could do is to elect a better government, a government that understands what the role of a government is. I think part of the problem that we have currently is that we have people who are in government but don't necessarily
More South Africans are leaving the country for better opportunities and better living conditions abroad. What do you think can be done to solve our brain drain happening in this country?
Yes.
And let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.
From the other side. Well, I was saying that we
More
currently have
South
a
Africans are
government that
leaving the country for better opportunities and
doesn't
better
seem
living
to
conditions
understand
abroad. What do you
the
think can be done to
fundamental-
solve our brain?
Can you switch it off?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying that we currently have a government that does not seem to understand what the fundamental duties and responsibilities of a government are, does not have competent people within it, and that seems to be an issue. There's still a debate amongst officials within the government, for example, whether government should nationalize the land or not, and stuff of that nature. A government that understood its job would understand that the fundamental job of a government is to keep people safe, ensure that their health is taken care of, ensure that the education sector is probably taken care of. Then from there, really all you need to do is to create an environment where people can freely operate, freely go into business, freely, if they want to do their arts and everything of that nature, so long as they don't step on the next person's foot. So I think we need just a government that understands where the perimeters of a government a lie, and one that's willing to create that kind of an environment. That in that way, the economy will start flowing, jobs will be created, investments will come into the country. Then we'll get to keep our skilled people into the country. If more people are coming to the country, businesses, the economy is growing, we get to reduce our taxes as well. Part of what's making people leave is that life is expensive in South Africa. Taxes are high, inflation, of course, is going up and stuff of that nature. But once you start getting the basics right, then everything starts adding together, and yeah, people won't have to leave the country anymore.
Definitely. Sholin, your this is gonna sound weird. Sholin, your master Meldat says this country is beyond repairs, bruh. Political leadership will watch with the capital elite from abroad how the UN feeds the starving SA masses. Sholin, what do you think about this comment?
To be honest, I don't really think that South Africa is beyond repair.
Yes.
I must say that we are in a really tough space right now as a country. But I do think that if some proper reforms or policies are implemented, I really think that this country can really be picked up. And I must say that many of our political leadership in South Africa right now are definitely looking at where are these countries, where are these individuals who are skilled, highly skilled, leaving to, where are they going to? And one of the things that we see, the majority of the people that are leaving South Africa, they are going to the United Kingdom, they are going to Australia, they're going to the United States, to New Zealand, to Germany, to the Netherlands, because not only are there opportunities that are not necessarily in South Africa, but there's also a living condition and a higher standard of living in these countries. One thing that I would think would certainly, without a doubt, with all South Africa's problems, one thing that would certainly deter me or encourage me, to go overseas or to leave the country would be the issue of safety and security. In my community, that is something that is a plague on my community, and I see that on that rests a lot of other external things, and whether it's businesses that are afraid because they might get robbed because of criminal activity, or their goods will be damaged, especially in light of something that's happening like maybe tomorrow, where we're having a national strike that could potentially and so easily turn violent and result in destruction of so many businesses, of homes, of basic public facilities. Stuff like that can occur, and that is really a fear in a lot of people's minds, where they are like, we need to go to an environment where I know that I can not only be safe myself, but my family, my place of employment is also secure from criminal activities that might seek to damage it. And that, I think, is at the core, like that is the most foundational thing that each and every individual is concerned about. Before you even think about, I must go do this for work, I must go buy food, important things, or I must go to school, whatever that, before you even come to that, you are thinking, what does my security and my safety look like? Especially in South Africa, that has high crime, and we have an issue of gender-based violence in this country. That is something that's at the forefront of many people's minds. So that is something I would fix immediately, and ensure that safety and security is not only established, but the rule of law is also advanced. Yeah, important.
Danko Sholin. Sholin for president. Definitely. 2024. Voting for you, man. Louis says, get rid of old pensioners in the parliament. Let young people with new ideas and politics that are not focused on race. Alex, get rid of the pensioners. Yes, no, maybe sometimes.
Get rid of pensioner ideas. Get rid of these ideas from the 1960s of these socialist ideas within which the ANC ideas are founded. But like Sheldon says, I don't care. I honestly couldn't care who the person looks, what they look like, where the ideas come from. Honestly, it really is not rocket science. As Sheldon says, people want to be safe. People want their families to be safe. People want security in their job. People want public services at work. It's really not rocket science. But yeah, we can get rid of the pensioners, but if the ideas stay the same, nothing's going to change. So, yeah.
Definitely, that is true, fam.
I think
Diego,
I think don't get rid of the pensioners at all. Get rid of whoever doesn't have fresh ideas. Whether one is a pensioner, young, female, male, black, white, whatever color, bring the right ideas, get the job done. That's what matters. One could be, I mean, there's someone like Dr. Mampila Rampele. She's old. I don't agree with her politics here and there. But I think old as she is, she remains brilliant in terms of coming up with solutions and everything of that nature. I don't agree with all her solutions, but she's old and useful. Yet I know people who are SASCO members, EFF student command members, DASO members, for example, at campus level, who participate in student politics. Their ideas are frightening. If you were to put them in parliament today, this country would collapse immediately. So being youthful does not entail to, it does
yeah,
not necessarily refer to you being progressive at all. So it's not an age issue. It's what you stand for, the ideas you stand for, and really logic at the end of the day.
definitely. Logic does count. And maybe let's go to Gerard. Gerard says, people are moving because there is no equal opportunities for all races. There are kids who are sitting with master's degrees but can't find a job. My kids will too. I think he's saying his kids will move as well. Diego, is this true? Does race play a card when it comes to people who are moving?
Absolutely. As a white person in South Africa, you know very well that opportunities are not widely open for you because we have race-based policies when people are being hired and stuff of that nature. So you are more likely, chances are that you are more likely to get a job outside South Africa than in South Africa. So it's certainly a fact. Alex, if all of us had same qualifications as Alex now applied for the same position, Mbali would be considered first because she's black and female. Sholan would be considered third. I would be considered second because I'm black. Sholan would be considered third. Alex would be considered fourth. So really, apartheid rules are still governing South Africa as things stand. The very government that was fighting against racism and racialism is the very one still implementing exactly that, and that's causing people to leave the country, reasonably so. So it's really something that we must fight against. We must
Yeah.
promote a South Africa whereby opportunities are open to all, a South Africa whereby we empower people, all people, especially people who were disadvantaged in the past. You don't empower them with jobs, you empower them with skills, and then they get to compete with everyone else. That's precisely what must happen, as opposed to this thing of cutting out people based on race. Something about
Yeah.
ourselves cannot change.
Definitely, guys. I think we've come to the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And yeah, do remember to keep engaging and go get yourself a cool Freedom Fanatics hoodie. We'll leave the link to the shop in the description below. And yeah, as always, do remember that your freedom is worth fighting for.